The Grand War Council of the Intergalactic Alliance floated above the golden clouds of HFY Prime. The chamber was shaped like a vast circle of black glass, its walls alive with shifting holographic maps of star systems. Dozens of alien delegates stood at their stations, their voices a mix of hisses, clicks, and echoing tones. In the center, a slow-turning 3D map showed the creeping spread of red dots, the enemy fleet advancing, system by system, toward the heart of Alliance space. Captain Elias Rourke, of Earth, stood at the human station, a small podium of steel set between towering alien command posts. Compared to the others, he seemed almost out of place. The Chur delegation towered over him, insectoid creatures with long, jointed limbs and razor mandibles that clicked with every breath. Beside them, the crystalline Zinthari glittered under the chamber's lights, their voices sharp and cold, like ice shattering on stone. When the floor's lights dimmed, the Zinthari speaker stepped forward. "The Vorak swarm moves faster than we expected," it said, each word cutting through the air. "We must deploy our fastest fleets. The slow will die first." The insectoid Chur let out a clicking laugh, their leader's yellow eyes focusing on Rourke. "Then perhaps the humans should remain behind," it said. "Your ships? How do you say it?" "Ah, tanks in space. Thick with metal. Slow as drifting ice." The chamber filled with a ripple of amusement from several species. The comment had not been meant kindly. Rourke's expression didn't change. His hands rested calmly on the podium. But inside, his blood was hot. He had heard it all before. The jokes about Earth's primitive designs. The mockery of armor plating, when the galaxy had long since moved on to shield technology. The Chur commander's mandibles clicked, again in a smile. "Tell me, human, do you really think those clumsy metal shells will hold against the Vorak? Their plasma will eat through you like acid through bone." Rourke looked up at the tall alien, his voice steady, almost casual. "If the Vorak think the same thing you do, they'll make the same mistake you are making right now." The room went quiet for a moment, not because they believed him, but because they thought he was overconfident, and overconfidence was dangerous. The Zinthari ambassador shifted, crystalline facets catching the golden light. "Earth is new to the stars, Captain Rourke. We will place you in a support role. Logistics, repairs, perhaps planetary defense. Leave the real fighting to those who know how it is done." On the massive holographic map, red enemy icons kept moving, swallowing another system. The Vorak were coming closer. Rourke glanced at the display, then back at the rows of alien faces staring down at him. "You're welcome to underestimate us. Just remember, the Vorak will too. And when they do, we'll be ready." After the council ended, the great doors of the chamber opened and the delegates streamed out, their voices still sharp with private discussion. Rourke stayed behind for a moment, watching the stars beyond the glass walls. Ships moved in the distant specks of light against the endless dark. Lieutenant Mara Trent, his second in command, stepped up beside him. She was younger, but her eyes carried the same fire. "Sir," she said quietly, "they don't trust us at all. They think we're just background support." Rourke smiled faintly, though there was no humor in it. "They don't have to trust us," he said. "They just have to survive long enough to see what happens when they push us into a corner." Mara's gaze stayed fixed on the distant ships. "You really think our armor can take what the Vorak throw at it?" "It's not just armor," Rourke replied, his tone quiet but sharp. "It's the plan, and they'll never see it coming." Elsewhere, in the darkness between stars, the Vorak swarm prepared. Their ships were alive with movement, black and silver hulls shaped like blades, wings folding and unfolding in slow, insect-like patterns. In their command hive, the Vorak war leaders studied the data stolen from the Alliance. Images of human ships filled their view. Massive, slow silhouettes covered in thick, featureless plates. No glowing shield lines. No elegant, curved designs. just blocks of dull metal, heavy and unrefined. One Vorak commander hissed in its native tongue, a sound like blades scraping together. They still use dead metal. They will be the first to fall. Another joined in, its voice dripping with certainty. When the battle begins, we will carve them apart for sport. They did not know that the very thing they laughed at was the thing that would destroy them. Back on HFY Prime, the human fleet's orders came through. They were to move toward the Selvar's Gate sector, a narrow passage between two nebulae that the Vorak would almost certainly pass through. Their mission was observation and reporting. Rourke read the orders in silence. Observation, he said aloud, as if tasting the word. Then he looked at Mara and the other officers, gathered around the table. All right, he said finally. We'll observe, but when the moment comes, we won't just watch. In the quiet hum of the briefing room, his crew exchanged glances. They knew what that meant. They were going into battle not as scouts, but as predators, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Outside, in the vast black sea of space, the Vorak were moving, and somewhere, deep inside the hulls of Earth's slow, armored warships, a secret waited to be revealed. The enemy had already decided that human armor was a joke. Soon, they would learn that it could move. The black void between the stars was never truly empty. Out there, in the cold places where no light reached, the Vorak's swarm gathered. They came like a storm without sound. Thousands of sharp, blade-like ships moved together in perfect formation, their metallic wings folding and unfolding like the breath of some enormous beast. No single vessel commanded the swarm. Instead, the Vorak Queen spoke directly to every ship, every pilot, every drone, a hive mind with one purpose: consume and destroy. Inside the central hive ship, the air was thick with green mist. Vorak commanders floated in zero gravity, their long, spindly limbs clicking against the metallic walls. They stared at shifting holograms of Alliance space, where the enemy's fleets waited. A young Vorak tactician hissed, its voice a rasp of steel against stone. The Chur ships are fast, but fragile. The Zinthri use shields we can dissolve. The humans. It paused, and a slow ripple of mocking laughter spread through the chamber. The image of human ships hovered before them, massive, blocky silhouettes, wrapped in plain gray metal. No shield emitters, no delicate curves, just slabs of dead steel. An older commander bared its teeth. We will cut them open first, so the others see. Let the galaxy watch their weakest burn. Far away, near the Selvar's Gate passage, the human fleet drifted in the quiet dot. Captain Elias Rourke stood on the command bridge of the UN's Titan. The ship's wide viewing glass revealed nothing but stars. Yet somewhere in that emptiness, death was coming. The Titan's bridge was calm, but it was not the calm of safety. It was the heavy stillness before a storm. Crew members moved between stations with measured precision, their voices low. Every sound seemed too loud in the waiting silence. Lieutenant Mara Trent studied the tactical display. Red markers, faint and distant, were beginning to appear. They're coming through the outer fringe, she said quietly. Estimated arrival in 12 minutes. Rourke nodded, his face unreadable. All ships, prepare to power up main batteries, but hold fire until my signal. Out in the fleet, the other human ships waited. The UN's Resolute, the Hammerfall, the Eden Spear, each one a floating fortress of thick, interlocking armor plates. The design had been called slow, ugly, outdated by every other species in the Alliance. But Rourke knew something the aliens did not. Every centimeter of that armor was part of a living system, a network of magnetic joints, hydraulic pivots, and reactive plating that could shift, rotate, and reconfigure faster than most ships could aim. To the untrained eye, it was just dead metal. To the humans inside, it was a predator's skin. The first Vorak ships emerged from the darkness like knives appearing out of shadow. Their hulls reflected no light, their wings shifting restlessly. In seconds, hundreds became thousands, flooding into the sector. On the Titan's bridge, the crew could feel it, that strange pressure in the chest that came when something vast and dangerous was drawing near. Mara's voice was tight. "They're ignoring the Alliance lines. Heading straight for us." Rourke almost smiled. "They think they're hunting prey." The Vorak ships began to spread, surrounding the human formation. Bright lines of plasma fire cut across the black. The first blasts struck the Titan's forward hull, brilliant flashes against gray steel. The bridge shook, but the armor held without so much as a scorch mark. Inside the Vorak hive ship, confusion rippled through the swarm mind. Impact registered. Target integrity. Unchanged. Another volley. Another impact. The armor shifted. Slightly overlapping plates, sliding into position with mechanical grace, sealing weak points before the next strike. One Vorak queen hissed in irritation. "Their armor is heavy. Break it with close-range assault. Tear it apart, piece by piece." The swarm surged forward. On the Titan, Rourke's voice was calm. "Hold fire." Mara stared at him. "Sir, they're almost within boarding range." "That's exactly where I want them," Rourke said, eyes fixed on the tactical screen. "They want to laugh at our armor. Fine. Let them get close enough to see it move." The Vorak closed the distance. Sleek black ships darted between the human hulls, confident in their speed. They circled the Titan like... The battle over Selver's Gate was chaos wrapped in firelight. Railgun slugs flashed like shooting stars. Plasma bolts burned lines across the void. Ships spun, died, and fell silent in the darkness. Through it all, the human fleet moved like a slow, unstoppable tide. Their armor shifted and flowed, plates sliding, turning, sealing, and revealing weapon ports with mechanical grace. Every time the Vorak thought they understood the pattern changed. On the bridge of the UN's Titan, Captain Elias Rourke's eyes stayed fixed on the tactical display. The Vorak swarm was still strong, too strong to destroy in a single engagement. But the longer they stayed here, the more Rourke's plan would work. "Status?" he asked, without looking up. Lieutenant Mara Trent's fingers danced over her console. "Outer hull integrity holding at 94%. We've lost minor plating sections on the hammerfall and the spear, but no major breaches." And the Vorak. Her lips curled into a thin smile. "They're angry, sir." Outside, the Vorak ships darted and struck with animal fury. They were fast, impossibly fast, and their weapons burned through any shield. But against the human armor, their shots splashed harmlessly, or were redirected by shifting plates. Inside the Vorak hive ship, the Queen spoke in cold unity. "The Prey's defense is adaptive. Overwhelm with mass. Surround. Close." A swarm of smaller Vorak fighters broke from the main force, rushing toward the human ships like a wave of black knives. On the Titan's bridge, Rourke's eyes narrowed. "They're committing their fast attack units." Mara frowned. "That's unusual. They always keep them in reserve for finishing strikes." "Exactly," Rourke said softly. "They think they've got us cornered. And that means..." He turned toward the comms officer. "Signal the fleet. Phase 2. The message went out in a burst of tight beam transmissions. Across the human formation, ships began to drift apart, slowly, deliberately, as if they were damaged and trying to avoid collision. To the Vorak, it looked like the prey was breaking formation under pressure. The swarm moved in for the kill. The first Vorak fighters entered the gaps between the human ships. From their perspective, it was perfect. Heavy, slow vessels with exposed hulls and nowhere to run. But the humans weren't running. They were waiting. On the Titan, Rourke's voice was calm, but edged with steel. All units snapped the net. The human ships moved at once. Massive engines flared. Armor plates rotated like shields. sealing off the open gaps and creating a sudden wall of steel. The Vorak fighters found themselves trapped in narrow kill zones between human ships, zones designed for one thing: concentrated fire. From hidden ports, the humans unleashed everything: railguns, point defense, lasers, guided torpedoes. The void lit up with the white flare of detonations. Vorak ships shattered against the moving armor, bouncing off reinforced plates before being torn apart. The swarm's speed became useless. They had no space to maneuver, no clear escape path. Inside the hive ship, panic rippled through the swarm mind. The prey is not prey. They were waiting. They planned this. The Vorak queens pushed for a retreat, but the trap had already closed. Their fighters died by the dozens before the survivors broke free. Scattering into the darkness. On the Titan, the crew erupted into cheers as the kill count climbed. Mara allowed herself a tight grin. "Sir, the net worked. They didn't see it coming." Rourke didn't smile. His eyes were still on the tactical map, where the main body of the Vorak fleet remained. They had taken heavy losses in the trap, but they weren't beaten yet. "They'll adapt," he said quietly. "They always do. Which means we have to stay one step ahead." The Alliance fleet had been watching the battle from a distance. Fast, shielded warships hovering on the far side of Selver's Gate, reluctant to engage. Now there comes channels lit up with astonishment. The Chur commander's voice clicked through, sounding almost grudging. "Human captain, your strategy was effective. We did not expect this." The crystalline Zinthri ambassador spoke next, its tone sharp with disbelief. "How did your primitive armor shift like that? That is not possible." Rourke's voice stayed calm. "You thought armor was just defense. We made it a weapon." But while the aliens were impressed, Rourke knew the battle was far from over. The Vorak swarm wasn't just dangerous because of their ships. It was their hive mind. Every loss taught them something. Every trap made them harder to surprise next time. He turned to Mara, signaled the fleet to reconfigure. "We'll draw them in again, but this time, they'll be ready for the trick. We have to be ready for their counter." Mara nodded, though her expression darkened. "They'll learn fast." "Sir?" "Yes," Rourke said. "But so do we, far out in the darkness." The Vorak swarm regrouped. Their ships shifted formation, spreading wider, probing the edges of human range. Inside the hive mind, the queens shared every detail of the battle: the armor that moved, the traps, the strange unpredictability of these new enemies. They had underestimated the humans once. They would not do so again, yet even in their cold, perfect unity, a new thought crept into the swarm's mind. Humans were not like other prey, and that was dangerous. The silence after the trap was almost worse than the battle itself. The wreckage of destroyed Vorak ships drifted like blackened bones through the void. Faint glows of molten metal faded slowly into darkness. On the bridge of the Unas Titan, the crew worked in tense, quiet. The adrenaline of their victory was still there, but it was wrapped in something heavier: the knowledge that the Vorak swarm was still out there. "Captain." Elias Rourke stood at the main viewing glass, eyes fixed on the faint red blips that marked the enemy's regrouping. Lieutenant Mara Trent stepped up beside him, her voice low. "They've pulled back out of range. Looks like they're thinking." Rourke gave a single nod. "Good. That means they're learning. And if they're learning," he glanced at the tactical map, "they're planning something." Far away, in the black heart of the swarm, the Vorak queens spoke in perfect unison. Their voices echoed across the hive mind, carrying images, commands, and cold emotion. The prey's armor shifts. The prey hides its weapons. The prey closes traps. One queen's voice hissed, like acid on stone. "Then we will burn the skin from their ships before they can move it." New attack patterns spread instantly to every ship in the swarm. The Vorak would no longer waste time striking the hull randomly. They would focus their fire in bursts, overwhelming the armor's shifting speed. and they would strike not just with plasma, but with cutters. Mara's hands gripped the side of the console as the first attack came. From the darkness, the Vork surged forward again, but this time, their formations were different. Instead of swarming randomly, they moved in precise waves. The first wave unleashed concentrated plasma fire on single points of the human hulls, heating the armor until it glowed red-hot. The second wave followed instantly, firing long, needle-like projectiles tipped with monomolecular blades. These cutters slipped into the glowing armor like knives into softened butter. The Titan shook violently as one of the cutters punched through an outer plate. Sparks rained down from a console. "Minor breach in Section 7, called an engineer from below deck. We're sealing it." Rourke's voice was steady, but his jaw tightened. "They've figured out the rhythm of our armor shifts." The other human ships were taking similar hits. The Hammerfall reported 2 deep penetrations. The Eden's spear had lost a secondary gun port, and still, the Vorak pressed closer. On the Titan, Rourke turned to Mara. "They're trying to force us to react faster than our systems can handle. If they win the timing battle, we lose the armor advantage." "So what do we do?" she asked. A small, dangerous smile tugged at the edge of his mouth. "We stop playing their game. Time for something they can't calculate." Rourke keyed into the fleet-wide channel. "All ships, this is Titan Actual. Prepare for Shadowskin maneuver." Mara blinked at him. "Shadowskin? That's not even fully tested, which is exactly why they won't expect it." He cut in. "Do it. Around each human ship." The armor began to shift again, but this time, it didn't just move. It peeled away. Huge sections detached, floating free into space in jagged patterns. The thick metal slabs drifted outward, tumbling slowly, each one still connected by thin, almost invisible magnetic tethers. To the Vorak, it looked like the humans were falling apart, ships losing their skin, exposing their vulnerable cores. The swarm surged forward eagerly, ready to carve open the crippled prey. That was when the tethers tightened. The drifting armor plates began to spin, rotating on their magnetic lines, moving into new positions, completely independent of the ships. Some overlapped, forming floating barriers. Others turned edge-on, presenting razor-thin profiles to incoming fire, and then shifting again without warning. The humans had turned their own armor into mobile shields, Vorak cutters, slammed into plates that weren't there a moment ago. Plasma bolts burned harmlessly into drifting barriers instead of ship hulls. And between those plates, human railguns fired through narrow gaps, striking the enemy from cover. The swarm mind rippled with frustration. The prey has grown thorns. They changed the battlefield itself. The queens tried to adapt, ordering their ships to weave between the floating armor, but that only funneled them into even tighter kill zones. The humans shifted the plates in real time, blocking escape routes, guiding the Vorak exactly where they wanted them. It was a battle not of speed, but of control. The victory over the Vorak swarm should have been celebrated across the stars. Instead, it sparked whispers, suspicion, and cold stares. The great council chamber of the Intergalactic Alliance shimmered with light from 1,000 floating crystals, each one representing a member world. Tall alien delegates stood in a vast ring, speaking in their native tongues. Their voices translated into a gentle hum through the chamber's com-net, and in the center, Captain Elias Rourke stood alone. He was not wearing his formal uniform. There had been no time to prepare. The summons had come while the UN's Titan was still repairing battle damage. Now, under the weight of countless alien eyes, he felt like prey in a different kind of hunt. The first to speak was Chancellor Varel of the Karasi, a tall, glass-skinned being whose body pulsed faintly with blue light. "Your shadow skin maneuver," Varel said slowly, "has changed the balance of our war." Rourke kept his voice level. "It worked. The Vorak were forced to retreat." "That is not the question," Varel replied, the blue glow in his body sharpening to a cold white. The question is, how did a relatively primitive species design such an unpredictable strategy? And why did you not share it with the Alliance before deploying it? Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some were curious, others were angry. From the far side, Ambassador Cathrix of the Durocs, a tall insectoid with blade-like arms, clicked his mandibles. Perhaps the humans waited until they could demonstrate superiority in battle. Perhaps they seek to rise above their station in the Alliance. Rourke's jaw tightened. With respect, Ambassador, our only goal was survival. The Vorak were seconds away from cutting through our armor. I didn't have time to file a committee request. Several delegates hissed or clicked disapprovingly. The Alliance valued order, procedure, and shared military control. Humanity's sudden, independent move had broken every rule. From the upper seats, a warm, melodic voice spoke. It was Ambassador Solani of the Thalori, one of the few alien leaders who had openly supported humanity's membership. Enough, she said. The humans saved not only themselves, but 3 Alliance fleets that would have been destroyed without their interference. Her eyes, deep in silver, turned to Rourke. But you must see how this appears to the others. You defeated a swarm the rest of us could not. That changes how they see you. Rourke looked up at the sea of alien faces. Some were afraid, some were angry, and some, he realized, were calculating, seeing humanity not as partners, but as rivals. That was when Chancellor Varel dropped the real blow. Until further review, the Alliance will restrict human fleet movements beyond the Sol sector. No experimental tactics may be deployed without approval. And your mobile armor system will be shared for study among the other races. The words felt like ice water. They wanted the shadow skin. They wanted to take apart Earth's best weapon. The one thing keeping the Vorak from overrunning them. Rourke's voice was calm, but inside, his chest burned. With respect, Chancellor, if you take our systems apart, you will not understand them the way we do. The armor works because it's not just technology, it's instinct, timing, and crew coordination. Varel's glow dimmed in annoyance. Then perhaps you will teach us that as well. After the session, Rourke left the chamber under the escort of Alliance guards. Mara was waiting for him in the landing bay, her expression hard. They're going to strip it from us, aren't they? She asked. Unless we can convince them it's not worth taking, Rourke said. And if we can't, he looked out, over the distant curve of the city world below. Endless towers of glass and metal, lights like a sea of stars. Then the next time the Vorak come, we'll be fighting with weapons that are no longer ours. In the shadows of the council chamber, 2 alien delegates spoke quietly after the humans left. They are dangerous, Cathrix hissed. Yes, Varel agreed softly, his body glowing pale. But perhaps useful. The Vorak will come again, and when they do, humanity will either be our shield. He paused, the light in his body flickering darker. Or our sacrifice. Back aboard the Own's Titan, the crew was restless. Engineers patched hull damage. Pilots recalibrated weapons. But the usual buzz of post-battle repairs was missing. Instead, there was a quiet heaviness in the air, the awareness that their victory had painted a target on humanity's back. In the command room, Rourke called a private meeting with his senior officers. We're in a new fight now, he told them. Not with the Vorak, with politics. And politics can be more dangerous than any swarm. Mara leaned forward. So what's our play? Rourke's eyes hardened. We keep our armor system in our control, no matter what. If they want it, they'll have to take it from us. And if they try, they'll see that we're not just moving armor. He let the thought hang. We're moving Earth itself. Far beyond Alliance space, in the dark, where no law reached, the Vorak swarm reformed. The Queens had learned much from their last defeat. The prey has thorns, one hissed. Then, we will crush them before they grow a forest, another answered. And in the distance, Vast shapes moved larger than anything humanity had faced yet. The real storm was coming. The first warning came from the outermost listening posts on the edge of Alliance space. It was not a message, it was a scream. A deep, distorted transmission ripped through every channel, static, mixed with the panicked shouts of a dying crew. Then, silence. Captain Elias Rourke stood in the command room of the UN's Titan, staring at the last frozen image from the outpost, a black wall blotting out the stars. It was not a single ship. It was a living tide. The Vorak had returned. And this time, they were larger in the meeting room. The senior officers gathered around a flickering holographic map. The swarm's shape pulsed on the display like a disease, spreading through space. Mara zoomed in, her fingers tightening into fists. They're not just coming through one sector. They've split into 4 waves. They're surrounding us before the fight even starts. Rourke's voice was steady, but his jaw clenched. They've learned from last time. They're not here to fight fleets. They're here to destroy planets. The call to the Alliance Council was urgent. Rourke transmitted the data, expecting an immediate order to mobilize. But the reply came cold and slow. Chancellor Varel's glassy form shimmered on the holoscreen. "Human fleets will hold position," he said. "We will respond after full strategic review." After review, Rourke leaned forward, disbelief turning into anger. "By the time you finish talking, the Vorak will have burned through 3 colonies. Varel's light dimmed, a sign of irritation. "This is not only your war, Captain. If humanity acts without authorization again, there will be consequences." When the connection cut, silence filled the room. "They're leaving us out too, dry," Mara said bitterly. "They're scared," Rourke answered. "And when leaders get scared, they hide behind rules." Within hours, the news reached Earth. Across the planet, cities went on high alert. Families fled inland from coastal launch sites. Orbital shipyards worked without sleep, rushing to repair damaged frigates and load cargo bays with weapons and medical supplies. In the North Atlantic, the giant moving armor known as Shadowskin was lowered from its hangars and latched onto the Titan's hull. Its plates shimmered like waves in the sunlight, as if the ocean itself had wrapped around the ship. To the rest of the galaxy, the armor was a tool. To Earth, it was a heartbeat, a promise that humanity could stand against the dark. 3 days later, the swarm reached Alliance space, but no fleets moved to stop it. The Vorak ships poured through empty space, their long black limbs catching light like the fins of monstrous fish. Their voices, high, sharp, and layered, echoed in open coms. They did not speak to negotiate. They spoke to frighten. "We remember you, moving armor. We will peel your shell. We will find the soft meat inside." On the Titan, the crew listened in grim silence. "Charming," Mara muttered. Rourke didn't reply. His eyes were fixed on the tactical display. The swarm was heading not for Earth directly, but for Kepler Station, a joint human-thollery outpost. He knew the Alliance would never reach it in time. If they waited for permission, millions would die. That night, in the dim light of the Titan's war room, Rourke made his decision. "We're going," he told the officers. Mara looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. "We'll be branded as traitors." "Better a traitor than a gravekeeper," he said. The crew didn't hesitate. Orders ran through the ship like electricity. Engines roared to life. The Titan turned toward the enemy. They arrived in Kepler's orbit just as the first Vorak ships broke through the station's defense screen. The scene was chaos, shattered hulls drifting in the dark, bursts of fire and light as defense cannons spat desperately into the void. Rourke's voice rang out across the bridge. "Deploy shadow, skin, full movement patterns. Let's give them a fight they'll never forget." The armor shifted, plates sliding with a low, oceanic rumble. It was alive now, bending, twisting, forming deceptive shapes to confuse the Vorak's targeting systems. From a distance, the Titan no longer looked like a ship. It looked like a vast, shifting predator from Earth's deep oceans. The Vorak hesitated. They remembered, but then their leader's voice cut through the cums. Break the shell, and the black tide surged forward. The first impact shook the ship like an earthquake. Energy beams flashed across the armor's surface, but the plates rippled and deflected them. In return, the Titans. From the surface, millions watched as the first Vorak scouts pierced the edge of the solar system. On news feeds and emergency channels, alarms blared. Families huddled together. Soldiers readied orbital batteries. But no help came from the Alliance fleets. They had withdrawn, leaving humanity to face the storm alone. Captain Elias. Rourke stared at the main viewing screen aboard the UN's Titan. The black tide of Vorak ships moved like an endless shadow, blotting out distant stars. They've learned patience, Mara Trent said, her voice tight with tension. They're saving their main force for the kill. Rourke nodded, jaw tight. And they'll strike Earth itself if we falter. We don't get a second chance. The Titan and its smaller supporting fleet, the Hammerfall, Eden's Spear, and several frigates, were the only defense standing between the Vorak and the planet below. The humans knew the odds were against them. Every alien ship in the galaxy had underestimated humanity once. The swarm would not make that mistake again. But Rourke had a plan, a gamble. The Vorak advance began with precision. Long, black ships streaked forward, cutting through the void. Plasma fire erupted in deadly arcs. The small human fleet took hits, armor glowing under the assault. Sparks rained across hulls. Alarms screamed. Yet the Titan moved differently. Its shadowskin armor shifted in real time, peeling, twisting, and folding. It was alive under Rourke's control. The moving plate swallowed incoming fire, redirected attacks, and even struck back, knocking smaller Vorak craft aside. Mara. Fingers flew across the tactical console. They're hitting harder than ever. Captain, the armor might not hold for long. Rourke's eyes narrowed. Then we give them another reason to hesitate. With a sudden command, the Titan broke formation. The ship dove toward the inner solar system, baiting the Vorak to follow. They think we're retreating, Mara said. No, Rourke replied. We're leading them into the real trap. As the fleet approached the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, human ships split into coordinated nodes. Each vessel acted independently, but with a single purpose: create a labyrinth of shifting fire zones, where the Vorak could never predict openings or weaknesses. The swarm followed blindly, eager to finish off the human fleet. But every attack they launched met a new surprise. Shadowskin armor detached segments that floated between enemy ships, turning the battlefield into a maze of moving steel. Railguns fired through gaps with deadly precision, and missiles zipped along unpredictable arcs. Every Vorak ship that broke formation was isolated, crushed between the human vessel's unpredictable movements. Even with the moving armor, the humans were taking damage. The Eden's Spear lost part of its main engine. The Hammerfall's bridge sustained hits, forcing the crew to reroute systems manually. But their determination never faltered. Below deck, engineers patched holes in zero gravity, welding and recalibrating. As alarms blared, medics rushed between stations, treating minor injuries with calm urgency. The human fleet was a machine of discipline, instinct, and will more than any armor could achieve alone. Above the chaos, Rourke felt the weight of Earth itself. Every star in the sky was a reminder of what they were defending. Millions of lives, billions of hearts, all counting on their courage. He spoke into the comms for the first time in hours, his voice calm but firm. Every ship, every crew member, remember this. We fight not because it is our duty alone, but because no one else will. Today, humanity stands as the shield of our world. Hold the line, move as one, outsmart them, survive. A chorus of affirmations answered him, voices strong despite exhaustion. The Vorak realized they were trapped. Their swarm formations had become tangled. Ships collided, Mistaking human maneuvers for gaps, railgun fire tore through tight clusters. The moving armor was no longer a tool of defense. It was a predator striking with precision. A Vorak queen hissed, a sound like metal, grinding on metal. They are not prey. They are the storm. The battle reached its zenith as the Titan and its fleet used the asteroid belt to their advantage. Floating rocks became shields, cover, and weapons, slamming into Vorak ships or forcing them into narrow kill zones. Human ingenuity transformed empty space into a battlefield tailored to their strengths. Despite their superior numbers, the Vorak faltered. They had expected prey that ran or cowered. They did not expect humans who planned, adapted, and fought with instinctive courage. Hours passed, but it felt like days. The void was a chaotic ballet of fire, steel, and human determination. Finally, the last wave of Vorak fighters attempted a direct strike on the Titan. Rourke's lips curved slightly, almost a smile. "No," he said. Every shadow skin plate shifted at once, spinning and snapping into a perfect grid. Railguns, missiles, and guided plasma beams opened fire from angles the enemy could not anticipate. The swarm's leaders were destroyed in an instant. Smaller craft panicked, colliding into each other and drifting into the asteroid field. The silence afterward was deafening. The human fleet was battered, but victorious. They floated amidst the wreckage of the Vorak ships, twisted metal scattered like black rain across the void. Mara Trent exhaled slowly, relief mingled with exhaustion. "They won't underestimate us again, will they?" Rourke shook his head, gaze on Earth below. "They might, but it won't matter. We've shown what humans are capable of, and no amount of fear or misunderstanding can take that from us." For the first time, he allowed himself a full smile. Earth gleamed beneath them, fragile but untouchable, protected by courage, intelligence, and an armor that was only part of the human spirit. Rourke spoke softly, almost to himself. "Let them come. Let them see. This is humanity, and we do not yield." And somewhere in the void, the surviving Vorak fled, knowing that the small, underestimated species called humans could not be broken. The galaxy had laughed at Earth's armor. It had moved, and humanity had moved with it, unstoppable, unyielding, and magnificent. Captain Elias Rourke and the crew of the UNS Titan had barely begun repairs when the communications console crackled. It was not a warning from the Vorak. It was from the Alliance, or at least, what they called the Alliance. The holoscreen flickered to life. Chancellor Varel's pale blue form shimmered in the projection, but there was something different in his glow. Cold, calculated. "Captain Rourke," Varel said smoothly, "we commend your efforts in repelling the Vorak. Your tactics were impressive." Rourke narrowed his eyes. "Then why are you calling? You left us to fight alone." Varel's glow dimmed slightly, a deliberate gesture. "We have reconsidered the situation. Humanity's capabilities make some members of the Council uneasy. As a precaution, all further offensive operations are restricted. You will comply." Mara Trent slammed her fist on the console. "They're trying to hand us over to the Vorak." "Not yet," Rourke said, voice low. "But that's what this is, a trap." He turned to the crew. "We've fought battles in space, but now we fight in politics. They fear us because we can move when no one else dares. They fear us because we've changed the rules of war." The Titan's fleet moved cautiously toward Earth orbit, but every channel hummed with tension. Alliance ships that were meant to reinforce humanity remained at a distance, keeping a careful neutrality that screamed betrayal. In orbit, Earth's orbital defense platforms hummed with activity. Civilians watched from below, unaware of the political treachery that was unfolding above their heads. The planet itself seemed fragile, vulnerable. Rourke's heart tightened. "If we fail here, if the Vorak return while our so-called allies hesitate—" He shook his head, pushing the thought away. "No, Not yet. We are still humanity's shield. Meanwhile, hidden in the shadows of the council chamber, the dissenting alien delegates communicated in whispers. They must be controlled, one hissed. Their armor, their tactics, it is too powerful. If humans are left unchecked. Another replied, clicking mandibles sharply. They will lead us to ruin. Or worse, they will claim the galaxy for themselves. The first signs of the Vorac's return arrived hours later. A distant glimmer of black shapes appeared beyond Jupiter. This time they moved faster and in a more coordinated strike formation. Rourke studied the approaching swarm. They've learned from our last fight, he said. Every tactic we used will be tested. Every strength we have will be pushed. Mara leaned over the console. And the Alliance? He shook his head. They've already made their choice. If we rely on them now, we're dead. As the Vorak drew closer, Rourke activated the Shadowskin armor. The Titan's plates shifted with fluid precision, detaching and reassembling in intricate patterns. The smaller human ships followed the same movement choreography, their formations unpredictable and deadly. From the void, the swarm faltered. The humans were no longer prey. They were predators, moving as one, anticipating and countering every attack. But the real threat was not the swarm alone. A sudden alarm shrieked aboard the Titan. Mara's hands flew over the console. Multiple Alliance ships just opened fire. On us. They're targeting our shields. The crew froze for a heartbeat. Then chaos erupted. Energy beams ripped past the hull. Frigates spun under assault. Rourke barked orders. Return fire, but maintain formation. We can't break the armor pattern. The shocking realization hit the crew. The very Alliance they had trusted, the same council that had ordered restrictions, was now actively trying to cripple humanity's fleet. Rourke's mind raced. It's a distraction. They